Hello everybody, I am Canner Yu-Gi-Oh! And welcome to the first video on the channel here, other than the previously released channel overview. We are here, as I explained in the overview, we are going to be primarily a rush duel through any of the NA means of playing rush duel. YouTuber here. So, I wanted to start off by making a tier list here for all of the different decks in the Rush Duel metagame for Duel Links. We've got a couple decks here, and there's some that I'm going to talk about more in depth. There are others that I'm not going to talk about a ton. This tier list is going to be just off the dome. I'm going to be doing one of these every time a set gets released. We're going to be doing a video breaking down the set. We're also going to be doing a meta prediction. And then probably 2-3 weeks after that, we are going to be making an analysis to see what actually turned out to be true. But let's start out with this top deck. If you've played Rush format at all for any amount of time, you can kind of verify this. Dragoncaster. Dragoncaster is really just the best of both Dragon and Spellcaster. You have the Dragon part of the deck, which is very good at making, well, that's Dragios, that's kind of the stuff around that, but you're also supplementing it with the spellcasters. The spellcasters allow you to recover your resources, use Seven's Road Magician, which is a very powerful card that can help break through the board states. And even though Dragoncaster, we have it here in Tier 1, there are a couple different builds of the deck, but we're not going to be talking about every build. We're going to just be talking about where the deck lands as a whole. And that's it for Tier 1. This deck really is just that much better, it feels, than everything else right now. It's going to be one of these that I'm going to be very interested to see with future sets and hits on limited lists where Dragoncaster is going to end up. I think, depending... I'm not super familiar with what the future Rush Pool could hold, but I'm thinking that for right now, there's not much that's going to look better than Dragoncaster does right now. I'm hoping we get something that does push either one of these decks down here up to a level that I can compete with Dragoncaster, or that just straight up makes them better than Dragoncaster. Starting off with Tier 2, this is the next best deck, in my opinion, and I think it's Dragons. Dragons not only have a board wipe that discards as a cost, which if you've played a Rush, if you don't want your hand to get clogged, so you can activate that, especially if you have material on field already that you've committed to. Not to mention, Dragios is just the best card in the game right now. It allows you to send a card from the top of your deck, and then if it destroys a monster, it can declare an attack again. That does not have to be a second attack into monsters. That can be a second attack into your opponent directly. I think that makes it so that Dragios and the Dragon deck is so extremely powerful. And I didn't pull this up. I probably should have. Just so I could show some sample deck lists. Bear with me here. This is going to be a bit off the dome. We'll show the Dragoncaster one here. We'll just take this. We'll just take a look at the top ones. This is an example for the Dragoncaster deck playing Phantom Bind, which is currently the only really usable trap card in the game. But yeah, we have this build of the deck playing stuff like Fire Golem, playing basically a bunch of spellcasters plus Dragios. And Thunder the Thunderer, which is a very good card. Next, let's take a look at the Dragon deck, just so I can go a little bit more in depth, because I wanted to pull this up right here. Their skill, Dragonic Resonance. Dragonic Resonance is a skill that can be used if you have only dragon monsters in your deck. Can be activated if you have a face-up Earth attribute effect monster with 1500 or more attack, or 1300 or more defense on your field. This turn, up to 2 face-up monsters with 2300 or less attack on your field gain 500 attack, and their level is increased by 4. This right now doesn't feel super relevant with their level going up, but this attack buff is massive. You can use that to bump up some of your other lower dragons. You can use that to bump Dragonic Slayer from 23 to 28. You can use that to make Gravity Press a 2k. Triad Drago becomes an 800. That's not super relevant. Like, a lot of these aren't super relevant. Twin Edge, though, can be relevant at taking games out. It's also playing Pierce. Pierce allows you to bump up with Dragonic Resonance and then just hit in for so much big damage. There's a reason why Dragios is on the limited 3 list, and Phoenix Dragon as well. Phoenix Dragon allows you to send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard and add a level 5 or higher dragon type monster from your graveyard to your hand. That allows you to kind of get some more in there. It allows you to get stuff back into the hand. Next up, this isn't really going to shock anyone. I got Spellcasters. Shocker that both of the parts of Dragoncaster are the 2 best decks in the game right now, but it really just is the truth. So let's take a look at Spellcasters, typically playing 7's Excel Road. So they play double 7's Road. They play this kind of build of the deck. Recovery Force is kind of one of the big reasons to play this deck. It allows you to shuffle 3 Spellcasters into your deck from your graveyard and then draw a card. This will often be able to help you unbrick your hand, because often you will see a bunch of low levels. If you don't see any highs, you want to see that. Another card that can help do that in Spellcaster, and this is also a card in Dragoncaster, is Mystic Dealer. Mystic Dealer allows you to send a Spellcaster from your hand to the graveyard and draw a card, which is, I don't think we need to say, but that is a very good effect. And then you're just playing a bunch of normals. You're playing Excel Wonder Splat. Send the top card of your deck, increase the level of 1 Spellcaster type monster on your field by 2, and bump it by 200 attack. We then have Torna the Windweaver. Send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. Change the battle position of 1 monster on your opponent's field. Attack becomes face-up defense. Defense becomes face-up attack. So that allows even the set monsters to end up becoming face-up attack. 7's Road Witch allows you to special summon the 7's Road Magician from your hand if this card is on the field. Then this card will gain... Well, it allows you to special any level 7 or higher dark spellcaster, but typically you're going to be summoning 7's Road Magician, and then this is going to end up becoming a 2k, which really is substantial. There is then 7's Excel Road. Skill can be used if the only monsters with 1400 or more attack in your deck are spellcasters. Its effect, 1 face-up monster with 1600 attack on your field that was summoned this turn gains 800 attack until the end of the turn. If you activated the skill on turn 4 onward, you can return 1 card from your hand to the deck once per duel. If you do, add 7's Road Magician from your deck to your hand. The reason that this is so powerful is you're able to get 7's Road Magician, which means you're able to get your big tribute to push the game forward towards reaching a conclusion. And that's it for Tier 3. Tier 2, sorry. Tier 3 was a little bit harder for me to kind of figure out. It felt pretty easy to talk about Tier 2 over and over and over, because Tier 2 and Tier 1 are a very big separation away from Tier 3 and Rogue. And, of course, the don't play tier, which there are a couple decks that are don't play. There are some other decks in the game of Rush, but they're not relevant enough to actually be on this list. That's stuff like Tengu and Noodle Ninja. But to start us off with Tier 3, we've got Bubble Era. Bubble Era is a interesting deck. Let me pull up Bubble Era. It's typically either playing Disco Fever or Cure Master Dion Keto. It's kind of a 50-50, so we're going to take a look at both of the skills. We'll talk about the skills first here. Disco Fever, this card skill can be used if you have at least 15 light attribute Aqua type monsters, and the only level 7 or higher effect monsters in your deck are Aqua. Can be activated during the turn you have summoned a light attribute Aqua normal monster. Any number, this is the effect, any number of light attribute Aqua type monsters on your field whose total levels equal 10 gain 700 attack until the end of the turn. The reason why this is good is you can actually use it to bump your Dion Keto, your 2s, because you are playing some of these 2s, ends up getting to be 1600, which actually does give them a serviceable attack stat. It bumps other stuff like Rice Terrace Secure is pretty good as well, because you're able to control multiples, which means you're able to change multiple attack position monsters to face up defense, which means it's actually easier to get into those cards. Triple Threat Thunder makes one of your opponent's level 8 or lower monsters to a 0 attack. Then we have the other skill here, which is Cure Master Dion Keto, which plays a lot more like Dragon Caster, a lot more like that style of deck. You're playing the Dragios. You're playing a card that we haven't actually seen yet, which is Prima Katarna. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the Psychic deck, because that is the boss monster for that deck. But Cure Master Dion Keto requirement can be activated if your life points are lower than your opponent's. Once per duel, shuffle 2 Aqua-type monsters with different names from your graveyard into the deck. Set 1 Dion Keto, the Cure Master, from outside of your deck in your spell trap zone. This card just has the effect gain 1,000 life points, which is also the effect on their boss monster, Dion Keto, the Boogie Master, sending a card from your hand to the graveyard, gaining 1,000. Next up, we have Aggro. Aggro is interesting. I'm not super familiar with the Aggro deck itself. So let's just go ahead, take a look. Yeah, this looks like Aggro. So they're playing Piercing Dragon Bunker Strike. This allows you to draw cards, place them on the bottom of the deck. This is a 2300. You're playing Legend Draw, which allows you to draw your Summoned Skull, which is a legend card. Legend cards are cards that will always be kind of similar to Limit 1 in Duel Links, where you can only use one of that card in each of your decks. Well, in your deck. It's also playing cards like Full Meteor Impact. If you have a Spellcaster, it allows you to do some things with that, which your Spellcaster is I'm not actually sure what the Spellcaster is. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with this deck, so I can't talk super extensively about this one, but it's just one of those decks where it aims to end the game as quickly as possible. Next up, we've got decks that I would consider rogue options. It's kind of hard to draw the line between rogue and tier 3, at least right now, because they feel very relative. But let's talk about our first tier 3 deck and what I believe to be the best rogue deck that I did consider for a bit, actually putting in tier 3. That's going to be Lightning Volt Condor. This is a deck that was released in the Structure deck that released with the Rush World, which is why you see this $4 right there in the deck cost. It the whole deck cycles around mainly this card, Lightning Bolt Condor. Send one monster from your hand to the graveyard. All face-up monsters on your opponent's field with the same attribute as the monster is sent to the graveyard. To meet the requirement, lose attack and defense equal to the level of that monster sent to the graveyard times 300. With the skill Lightning Shift, this skill can only be used if the only monsters with 1400 or more attack in your deck are spellcasters or winged beasts. This can be activated the turn you've summoned a level 7 or higher. You can... one face-up on monster on your opponent's field becomes light until the end of the turn. If you have a Volt Condor on your field, you can actually add a level 4 or lower light winged beast. That's typically going to get you Trick Pigeon, because you can send a spell trap card from your hand to the grave and add a winged beast with 1500 or more attack from your graveyard. That allows you to add stuff such as this card right here, Darkness Crested Hawk. If your opponent has a face-up light attribute monster on their field, send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. Quick effect, you can target one winged beast type monster on your field. One winged beast monster on your field gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. This allows you to play a deck that really, really wants to OTK your opponent. It kind of struggles a little bit if you aren't able to OTK, but this deck has a pretty easy time at that. But it doesn't have a way to necessarily be as resilient as decks like Dragoncaster and even stuff like Dianketo, which is actually pretty... it can be pretty decent at actually dealing with OTK decks by extending the game longer than what Lightning Bolt Condor wants. The other deck I'm going to put in Rogue. I wasn't super sure about this one, and I'm not super sure right now either, but we're going to put Psychics in Rogue. Psychics is a deck that really kind of cycles around the fact that you're paying life points to deal as cost for your effects. That's kind of the thing. So you're playing life point gain, which just allows you to, if your life points are 2,000 lower than your opponent's, gain 1,000 life points. It's a once per duel. You're playing 3 Dragios. You're playing this card, Prima Guitarna. Prima Guitarna is an extremely exceptionally powerful card. It is a level 7 with 2200 attack. That for the requirement for its effect, you pay 1,000 life points. But all face-up monsters on your field gain attack equal to the number of monsters on your opponent's field times 300. This card is very good at allowing you to break through established boards. You're able to use stuff like Dragios, which is going to get bumped up to potentially 3,400 off of this, which means your Dragios can often represent big OTK pushes. And you're also playing Pierce. This allows you to break through your opponent's set cards. Now we have the Don't Plays. This was hard because I never really knew if I wanted to do a tier of Don't Plays or just not include them in the video, but I think these decks are substantial enough and they're funny enough to actually talk about. We're just going to get into it right away with Yami Ruler. So Yami Ruler is a interesting deck. It cycles around this card right here, Yami Ruler, the Dark Delayer, which allows you to kind of lock your opponent out of their big summonable monsters. If you have a warrior, you can also have Kime Ruler to direct attack. If they don't have a face-up attack position monster, Pierce is really powerful in this deck. Bonded Bowing is fine. You can actually use that as an axis to activate Yami Ruler's attack to get this into attack, which is interesting. Kuribot is a way to extend with this deck. Rice Terrace is a way to make the games a little bit longer. But there's not really much that this deck does. Let's read the skill here. The skill can only be used if the only monsters with 1400 or more attack in your deck are warrior types. Can be activated during the turn you have summoned a level 6 or higher dark or earth warrior monster. The effect of that is change one attack position on your opponent's field to face up defense position. This is not good. That's not a good effect. It just allows you to change one monster your opponent controls to defense, and you're kind of going to hope that you draw into your big names. You may have noticed that some of the other cards had this as well, this 3. That means they are at limit 3, so you can only play up to 3 copies of a limit 3 in your deck, but with this one it doesn't really matter. And then next, we have quite possibly one of the funniest decks in the entire format. We have Beatdown. Beatdown surrounds this card right here, Diabolic King Beetle, which sends the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and then one face-up monster on your field gains attack equal to the number of level 1 monsters in your graveyard times 100. So, besides this, you're just playing a suite of level 1s that you can use to make your bigger guys. You can use it to make Diabolic King Beetle to just kind of get kills. You can also, with this skill, use it to boost, but yeah. I think this deck is not very good either. I think this is probably better than Yami Ruler. It could honestly be that I am underestimating this deck, but I don't think it's super great right now. This is kind of my thoughts, though, on early Rush Duel in Duel Links. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. This has kind of been based off of what I've experienced just playing on the ladder, and that's kind of how these tier lists are going to be evaluated. This is not going to be if you're playing in a tournament that is hosted. While the results are posted on Duel Links Meta, for example, we're not really going to be talking about that. We're going to be more so focusing on just like laddering that what is kind of the tier list there. We are probably going to use some references from Duel Links Meta from tournaments such as deck lists. If we want to go ahead and find a Rush Duel tournament like this one here, Quantum Rush 4, we're going to use that to find stuff like that. This is best of 3, so it's going to be a little bit more different. It's going to be a little different, but this is where, say, our Dian Keto, we see Spellcaster, we see Dragons, we see Aggro, like kind of stuff like that. We're going to be using deck lists from here, probably analyzing them. We're not going to necessarily go super heavy into analyzing results from DLM. Well, I have been Canner. Thank you all for watching this video on the tier list. And I will see you guys on Wednesday for a new video to pair with this one.